Next case is cases are VAR-21-52A, VAR-21-52B, VAR-21-42C.
Mary Beth, question.
Yes.
On the agenda, the numbers do not match.
Yeah, I was kind of noticing that myself. Okay. Staff. Tammy, are you here?
I am. I'm pulling up the staff report you're saying is different.
The agenda says it's looks like the agenda says it is 54 and the actual that says 52.
Give me a second to pull up the packet just to confirm. I know it's 54.
Yeah, this should be 52. This is probably wrong. This is 52. So yeah, right, I imagine it should be 54. Okay, let me reread that. We have cases VAR-21-54A, VAR-21-54B, VAR-21-54C, and that makes a lot more sense than that one did. Okay.
Apologies for the confusion. So it is correct in the agenda and the PowerPoint here, but unfortunately, it may rear its head at the very end of in the last slide. So this is 3 variances asked for by 45 Properties LLC, owned by Jeremy Myers. They're requesting a front yard setback variance to Chapter 804. VAR-21-54B is a rear yard setback variance to Chapter 804. VAR-21-54C is a buildable area 15% slope variance to Chapter 804. This property is 2 parcels, considered 1 lot of record. It's 1.4 acres in the Benton Township, Section 3, and Benton North, Section 35. And it's at 9010 East South Shore Drive. And this is a split zoned lot. So it is zoned both SR and FR. So the request is for these 3 variances, which I'll get more details into. The purpose of them is the petitioner is seeking an issuance for 2 after the fact building permits for an unpermitted house addition and an unpermitted residential accessory structure. So this is located off of South Shore Drive. And you can see here the portion that's in Benton North Township is zoned SR, and the portion below is zoned FR. They actually received a minimum lot size variance in like 2014 because it did not meet the 5-acre minimum lot size for FR. And I will point out there is a small structure here that is no longer here that came up in the last petition. It was an old wooden type of garage that was in place. And I will also point out that right-of-way during a Type E subdivision was dedicated along this portion here, but for whatever reason was not dedicated along this portion. So we are using a right-of-way of the edge of pavement for this petition. So I wanted to review a little bit of history of this site. I touched on that Type E subdivision where they dedicated a portion of right-of-way. And then in 2014 was the minimum lot size variance to the FR zoned portion of the lot so that it could become a buildable lot. In 2017, the petitioner came and asked for a rear yard setback variance. And this was granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals to allow a 20-foot encroachment into a 35-foot setback. They have actually further encroached into that setback. So rather than being 15 feet off the line, I believe they're 11.1 feet off the line. And then in 2020, they submitted permits and as a part of that, they received a waiver for slope for the residents, and the permit was then issued 20-R1-161 based on an engineered site plan that was approved during the variance. And also we had at that time, sorry, I got distracted there. They had also submitted a specific set of building plans with that R160, sorry, the 20-R1-161 permit. Then just recently here in 2021, as part of a real estate transaction, they had an as-built survey performed on the property with the structures, and there were several issues, which I'll go into in more depth. Planning staff sent an enforcement letter, which is in the packet. And since then, the petitioner has been trying to comply with that enforcement letter. They submitted residential building permit R-21-720, which shows the actual building plans for the house that they built. And then they also submitted the residential accessory structure for R-21-731 for a detached garage that they built without permits, and it does encroach into the front setback, also requires some slope variances. They do have a septic permit on file, and it's hard to read here, or from my perspective, but they have a driveway. The original driveway permit submitted was for the west side of the property. They built it more towards the east. They have since worked with the highway department to get an approved, or at least to get a driveway permit kind of semi-approved. And I think that'll be based a little bit on this petition. So here's what they built. In the upper picture is the background is the residence that was built. And then you can see part of the detached garage with the retaining wall to hold back that steep restricted slope. And then this is the bottom picture shows the driveway that they cut in without permits, but has been reviewed by highway department, and they are willing to accept this. That doesn't fully meet their ordinance. It's wider than what they want it to be. I can't explain why they're going to be granting that. All right, so this is facing west. So this is the residence up here. And then you can see I've kind of highlighted the two survey stakes. And so what occurred was when they laid out this house, it was originally supposed to be 15 feet off of this setback, and it ended up being 11.1 feet. So they did further encroachment. They need another rear yard setback variance. I'm going to point this out right here that this whole sidewalk and driveway area towards the rail line, because there's a rail line right here, has been removed. And there's a new as-built survey that has been submitted into our system. And I may try to pull that up later if it seems relevant. This photo down here is just facing east. So you can see the two survey stakes I've highlighted there. And then this is how close the house is, and it's overlaying kind of the railroad on that side. I do want to point out that they do have that septic system for 3 bedrooms installed. This is the Presby system field itself. The tank is up here near the house. And this is the house in the background. And then we have an aerial photo. This is the old structure that is no longer there, that has been replaced by a larger and more and a structure that encroached into slopes more so than this. You can see the train actually was captured here in this photo. So the upper survey was what was submitted in the original variance for the rear yard setback with a very specific footprint for the house. The septic location was actually, once the site inspection was done, like they thought it better with the way that this drainage comes through here to reorient it. So it has been kind of tilted to the side, or up and down, I guess, in this picture. And we had a driveway that was supposed to come in this way and come up to access the house. And there was no plans for this little structure here. I think it was at the time discussed to maybe just be demolished. And then the as-built survey, which is this, I'm only showing this version of it here because of the septic they drew on with the tank that I showed in that picture there. I have a better version of it right here where I've highlighted a few items. So the driveway that was supposed to be this one has been relocated. It's much wider. We're using right-of-way as the edge of pavement of the road. And though this structure is set 28.9 feet back, this is a 35-foot required front setback because South Shore Drive is a minor collector. So they kind of erroneously have a 25-foot setback, I think, shown on this plat here, but it's actually should be 35-foot setback. A summary, the original footprint of the home on that approved site plan by the BZA was 32 by 65. The as-builts show it slightly larger, which roughly converts into maybe, I think it was something like 530 square feet of extra living space. Then we also have the encroachment showed here into the allowed rear setback that was approved at 15 feet. And then I just discussed that shed, the previous dimensions of the old shed, what they put in, which was larger, and then why they require front setback variance here. So this is the enforcement letter that I sent out, and to confirm the plans that they built, which were different from the plans they submitted for the permit, allowed for 576 square feet of a larger structure in total. So they have submitted a permit for what we're going to call it an addition to their original building plans. It's like an after the fact permit. And we have, you know, the rear setback variance, which they're requesting here at this platform. They have submitted an as-built, an after the fact permit for the structure, which for the accessory structure or detached garage, which requires more variances, two additional variances. And then the driveway, they have been working with the highway department to get that one worked out with them. The petitioner submitted a letter. I'm not sure if you had a chance to read through this or not. He will probably touch on many of these points when he is allowed to speak. I had actually 2 letters of support submitted. This was submitted Thursday morning last week and discusses several of the neighbors supporting it. And then I did have an additional letter that was submitted. I had that pulled up a second ago. And this was submitted late last night from Julia Moore. She says, it's a beautiful home, and even though he may have failed to use the correct setbacks, et cetera, I really believe this house is an asset to the area. I do hope that there will not be any actions against him and that the house and grounds will be allowed to stand as they are. Thank you, Julia Moore. So I wanted to just get that in the record since I was unable to get it into the slide presentation due to the lateness of it being submitted. So staff is recommending denial on all 3 variances, mostly because this was a self-created hardship. There aren't really practical difficulties based upon that. You know, though the petitioner has been trying to comply with the enforcement measures like this, these are required to keep everything as it is. And I will say that forgive this slide. It has so many problems. None of those variance numbers are correct. So you should use what is in the actual agenda when making any motions. Don't know where my brain was at the time of making this slide. Does anyone have any questions for staff at this time?
Any questions for Tammy? Okay, and what is the remedy if we deny these variances?
You would have to remove the detached garage or submit a plan that maybe meets those requirements, rebuild it in a way that could conform with front setbacks, which would be tough because the rear setbacks is just right there behind it. And then, the house, that's a more tricky one because it's there. I am not sure how to work through that one. It would require some design work to be compliant with the rear setback.
And would it not disturb the buildable area even more if there were removing or rebuilding or redoing the house?
Correct. They've already ripped up the site to comply with the railroad encroachment that they did the driveway. So they are kind of remedying that. And that has nothing to do with the Board of Zoning Appeals. For the record, they are trying to become compliant with the fact that they did build the driveway and turn around over.
Does anyone else have any questions for staff?
I guess I will ask this question. It seems like things that have already taken place and then they come before us to say, oh, yes, we give you a variance when it's already built and taken care of. Isn't there something in place that if you guys go out and they have done something, instead of coming before us, they would just automatically be fined? Or is that something that can be done? Or it just doesn't seem like this is, we're making a judgment call on something that this has already been done.
Right, and it's not in compliance. So this is the avenue to make it compliant. If he had not worked with us to submit, these after the fact permits to work through the system here, that's when we would start issuing fines and start taking a more drastic legal action.
Okay, thank you, Tammy.
I'd just like to say that, there is a pervasive attitude in our community is that if it's not permitted, do it and then beg forgiveness afterwards. And I know that there are builders who even talk to homeowners like that and try to get the homeowners to take the risk. I don't know what measures we have as a planning department to make the builder accountable to the person who hired the builder, but I find that reprehensible.
This neighborhood, I have noticed, has a particular problem with that.
Yes.
I don't know that that's the case in this particular incident. We need to wait and hear from the petitioner, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay. Is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
Hi there. Yes, Jeremy Myers.
Jeremy, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
So Tammy did a really nice job of describing almost verbatim what went on here on this project. I made some assumptions along the way, and I tried, of all things, to regard the slope and disturbance of soil. I did all the best management practices all along the way, even as far as soon as the soil was ready to be replanted, I put sod back and all over instead of just on slopes. I was mindful of that the entire project. We can, whatever best to describe these or to understand how we landed here, you would like to go through. If we would like to discuss these one variance at a time, I'm open to any which way you would like to try to understand how this kind of all happened here.
I'd like to know why things were not built as to what was already approved by the BZA and why you deviated from the plans?
That's a great question. So the house, for example, was we'll start with the house change. It was determined along the process that the house wasn't big enough, and for reasons that we don't need to get into in this meeting, the floor plan changed, and it was not going to encroach on any steep slopes. So we just went through with that. This was again a judgment call. It did not push it closer to the rear setback. That was a surveying error on a curved property line that shouldn't have encroached into that setback. I fully thought, and my track record is pretty good here as far as being a man of my word. I really thought that I was not encroaching on that rear setback variance that I was given in 2017. So that is how the house changed. I didn't see any issue with that, and so I didn't take the proper steps to make that right with planning, and I should have. And that goes for the garage as well. The detached garage, there was a structure there that was deemed unsafe. The posts were rotten, and it was, for lack of a better word, it was just terribly built, terribly construction. So I had my framing contractor look at that. We built a retaining wall around that, keeping in mind that my surveyor, Eric Deckard, provided me with this site plan that showed a 25-foot setback. So I just thought that I was within the setback there, and I didn't go over the rear setback. So I thought I was in compliance. If you look at the slope map that Tammy showed earlier, it shows that there was an area there that if you were gonna put a detached garage, there wasn't a slope issue there. After I put the retaining wall up to preserve the structure that was there, it was not savable. So Tammy, can you show the slope map that is blue and red, please? Yeah, that one. So along South Shore Drive there, the blue area, she showed there's an old structure there, and that is exactly where the new driveway and the old structure were. And I used that driveway all the way through the construction process to bring materials and concrete trucks and those things in. And there again, I thought I was inside the setback requirements. There was a building there, and we just, when it was time to replace that structure, I was heartbroken. I was over budget the whole way on this project, but it was a decision that was made, and we were inside the setback, so we just went through with it. I had it inspected. Building department was involved. They inspected the garage as well as the house. I just didn't see where I'd gone wrong there. If you look at the area down in the across the county section line there, the large blue area, that is where the septic system went. So I took as in our first meeting, I took 3 areas that were the least invasive as far as slope is concerned and built on those. This lot was terribly difficult to achieve this, and I did my best all along to keeping in mind that we are near a lake, and soil and remediation are things that I was taught during the first hearing to take care of. I did. And I think if you were to ask anyone in the area who went through the process as I did, I think you would have had plenty of complaints if I were out of compliance there, because some people, I just feel like I did my best all along the way, and I made some mistakes. So I'm asking you for forgiveness here, and try to move forward. None of these things were done, as you were mentioning earlier, maliciously. I didn't try to, I'm not begging for forgiveness here. I thought I was doing things in the right order.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Myers?
I have a question. Mr. Byers, did you build this house all by yourself, or did you have contractors come in?
For the most part, I built the house. I had some bids and couldn't afford some of those. So I chose to do most of this work myself. Things like surveys and site plans and things that I knew through working with Tammy the first time around were very important. I hired those people, and then all my structural guys, I hired those guys, but I was very involved.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you had a question?
I do, Mr. Byers. I wasn't following part of what you said. You said on that detached garage that there was no variance needed prior, but you put in a retaining wall and then you determined that the existing structure needed to be replaced. So you replaced it, and then you had the county building department come out and they gave you the thumbs up?
So there was a structure there that I intended to use. I was going to put some new siding and a new roof on it. And the slope was all around that. You can see in the slope map, there were steep slopes all the way around that. So in order to save that structure, we put a retaining wall around it. That's how it started. And then during that process of putting garage doors and siding on that existing structure, it was too far gone. The weather or the years of neglect had taken its toll, and it was in terrible shape. So we built this new structure back. And as I was going through the inspection process on the home, the building department also inspected the garage. It's, they saw it being built, and that's not, I'm not trying to give any excuse there. That is not the way that I should have done that. There should have been a permit on file, and the building department did not know that I did not have a permit on file. They just took, if you're an inspector on a job site, you're going to look at what's going on. So as they were there, we just did that along the way.
Right. So there's a violation on the garage, but the building department cleared you in an inspection.
Yes, because the garage is built to current building code. It's just out of the planning department's setback code. So building department doesn't have an issue with this structure. Where it became an issue was I didn't get the permit before I built it. I since have applied, and building department does not have a problem with this permit. The problem here is the setback off of South Shore, which again, it sounds like I'm making excuses here, but my site plan showed 25 feet as a setback, and I'm 28 feet and 9 inches instead of the required 35. So my mistake here was twofold. I should have applied for the permits at that time, and I should have made sure that my site plan showed 35 feet as a setback, and I did not do those things.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Okay, any further questions for Mr. Myers? Seeing none. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Seeing none, any of my board members ready to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion with all the information given. I'm going to, on case number VAR-21-54A, and should I do each one separate, Larry?
Go ahead and make your motions on each one, then I will call the roll separately for each one.
Okay. I'll start again. On VAR-21-54A, rear road yard setback variance on Chapter 804 at 9010 East South Shore Drive, I make a motion to approve the variance. On VAR-21-54B, front yard setback variance, Chapter 804, I move to approve the variance. And on VAR-21-54C, buildable area, 15% slope, Chapter 804, move to approve the variance.
Okay, in the interest of speed, I'm going to try this. We'll see if it works to approve all three motions to approve all three variances. A vote in favor is vote to approve all.
And Larry,
I will second those motions.
Okay.
I will second.
Okay.
I will second those.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm going to try it in one vote. We'll see. We only have 4 members here, so there has to be 3 votes in favor in order to approve the variance. The votes are VAR-21-54A, B, and C. The front yard, rear yard buildable area variance for 45 properties LP. All variances are from Chapter 804. A vote to approve is a vote to approve all 3 variances. Margaret Clemens.
No.
Skip Daly.
I'll vote yes.
Mary Beth Smartcheck.
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen.
Yes.
Okay, the variances approved. All 3 variances are approved by a 3-to-1 vote.
Thank you, and you have a good evening, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you guys so much.
Okay. Next up, we have CDU, conditional use, -21-2. And this is a conditional use for a daycare center. Rebecca?
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I was on mute. Sorry about that. So this is a conditional use petition for property at 583 South Cave Road. It's one parcel that contains 5.37 acres and is currently zoned RE 2.5. The petitioner operates a daycare at this location and needs or is asking for a conditional use in order to proceed with the use of daycare center here at this location. This is a use that is a conditional use for this zone. So this is why she is here tonight at the BZA. Typically, daycare centers across Monroe County require letters to operate that are signed off from our commissioners. And so the petitioner in this case did request for that letter. And at that point in time, staff realized that this was a conditional use for this zone. And so we had her apply for this conditional use. And what I'm showing here on this screen is what we call a use determination, which is made by planning director, so Larry, And after the petitioner submitted her use of the property, Larry was able to make the determination that it is in fact a daycare center. And I won't read this lengthy definition of daycare center, but it is in your packet. So hopefully you all have a chance to get familiar with what this definition is. So in this zone, which Chapter 833 covers, the use of a daycare center is a conditional use, and the Board of Zoning Appeals must find that the proposed center meets the following conditions. And for the benefit of anybody not seeing the screen, I'll quickly read the conditions. A, proof of licensing or exemption from the state shall be presented with the application. B, operator shall be responsible for compliance with all applicable city ordinances and state and federal statutes and regulations. C, the center shall be screened from adjacent properties with a fence or vegetative buffer, and an adequate fenced play area shall be provided. The minimum lot size shall be 15,000 square feet, or the minimum lot size for the district, whichever is greater. E, site design and supervision characteristics shall ensure that peace and safety of the surrounding area shall not be impaired. And F, no center shall be approved within 500 feet of another center. Get this out of the way here. So here we have some site photos. Picture on the left is showing the front of the daycare center. You can see where the petitioner has fenced off and delineated the play area for the children that attend. Again, here on the right is a close-up of the same play area, and I thought this was a good shot. It illustrated how far back from the roadway this is. The play area is set back. On one side, or actually on most sides, but in particular on this side, the picture on the left is illustrating the existing vegetative buffer that is there. So in this photo on the left, the daycare center is this building here that you see on the right side of the screen. And then this is the adjacent neighbor. And it's nice and protected here by these existing tall trees and shrubs. This is another photograph from a different angle that's now showing the south side of the property, also being buffered by an existing and pretty robust buffer there of trees. More photographs from the grounds. Again, just trying to illustrate that this spot is, it actually sits sort of lower in elevation than surrounding areas. And so as you can see, there are some hills which further add buffering to the facility. For example, this is another adjacent property. The residents on this lot, because of the hill, can hardly even see the daycare center. So it's a nice, it's situated nicely in that way. And the picture here on the right is just the field in the back behind the daycare center. So it's mostly farm. There is no other residential or business directly adjacent to the center. Here we have the petitioner's site plan, which was required for part of the petition. It's pretty self-explanatory. These were here on the southern property line are the pines that I mentioned being a robust barrier. North side, here is a neighbor that is also buffered with existing trees and shrubs. So in this case, the site plan is, staff finds it sufficient in meeting, all requirements. And at this point, I do also want to mention that the petitioner has received quite a few letters of support, particularly each of her adjacent neighbors has submitted and supplied a letter in support of her use of this property as a daycare center. Additionally, parents of the kids that attend took the time to write in, and also some support came to us, letters of support came to us from other community members, and also the Monroe Smart Start program. No letters of opposition were received for this. So in terms of staff recommendations, staff recommends that we approve the conditional use request for a daycare center based on findings of fact and subject to the Monroe County Highway Engineer and the MS4 coordinator reports, and subject to the following condition: one, that the applicant receive an updated real estate inspection of the septic system. And I will note here at this point that I have been chatting with the petitioner, and it sounds like she is already, after getting our report and reading this recommendation, she's already working on lining up that kind of real estate inspection for the septic system. And I also want to point out, related to our rationale for making this recommendation of approval, the petitioner in this case does meet all of the conditional use requirements. So we felt very good about offering support for the approval of this. And with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions for Rebecca? Seeing none, is the petitioner here, and would they like to speak?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Okay, would you like to speak, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name.
My name is Rebecca Wheeler.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
So I own the property that Rebecca was speaking about, and we've done childcare in this community in our neighborhood for several years. And as you can tell from the letters of support, our neighbors do support us and encourage us to keep in business. I've watched many of their kids, and my elderly neighbor that is to the north of me, she visits me almost daily, talks to the children. She loves to interact with them. We take her vegetables and things from our garden. So I do want to say that we're more than a daycare center. We are a school-ready program. So that means when children leave my program, they are school-ready. We do developmental assessments on them. We plan lessons daily for them, and we have staff that is educated and prepared to teach children of this age. So we've worked very hard with Monroe Smart Start to make our business what it is. They've invested a lot into me, and that is why they're here with me tonight to also speak on our behalf. We've been open through the whole entire pandemic. We haven't had any COVID cases, thankfully. We've followed every guideline that the health department has given us, every guideline that the state has given us, and probably even more. We are on a food program for our kids, so our kids get USDA recommended meals every day. We follow all of their guidelines as well, and we get inspected by them to make sure that we are a safe environment for preparing and serving food to the children. Let me look at my list here. So we are past a quality level 3, which means that we do offer quality childcare in the state of Indiana. There is only 48% of the children in Indiana that receive quality childcare. And I'm proud to say that our place is one of those places. So it is very important to me and to the children in our care and to the parents who have their children in our care that we remain open. My staff receives paid tuition through the TEACH program to get teaching licenses. Trying to think without giving you guys too much information. My letter said a lot of things.
You're fine, Miss Wheeler.
And right now the parents are receiving all of my parents currently are essential workers, and they're receiving up to 80% with a grant for their paid tuition. So again, it's just very important to them that they have a safe place for their kids to come where they don't have to worry about them. I enjoy serving our families. I've done this for 18 years. My daughter works with me. This is all she's known and all she wants to know, and she wants to do this business after I leave it. And the lady that works with me as well feels very passionate about the kids. So I thank you guys for hearing us tonight, and I would appreciate your votes to keep us in business.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler. And I wish there had been options as good as you when my children were little.
Thank
you. Does the board have any questions for the petitioner? No. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition?
Yes, I'd like to. Thank
okay.
You. Hi.
Okay. Can you state your name?
Yes. Hi there. I'm Jennifer Myers. I'm the director of Monroe Smart Start.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Yes, thank you. As I mentioned, I'm the director of Monroe Smart Start, and that's the leadership initiative of the Community Foundation of Bloomington, Monroe County. Since 2009, the Community Foundation has invested over $2 million to increase access to high quality early learning opportunities in Monroe County. The Community Foundation and Monroe Smart Start remain diligent and intentional in capacity building efforts so that all children in our community can attend affordable, high quality childcare. And by the state's definition, as Rebecca mentioned, high quality is a level 3 or 4 in Indiana's pass or quality rating system. And while the pictures didn't show her sign, there is an awesome level 3 sign right there in her front play area. Becky and her staff has participated in Monroe Smart Start's 2014 and 2015 quality cohort, advancing her program to a level 3 in pass to quality. She remains engaged in Monroe Smart Start initiatives and is a recent grantee to participate in a statewide shared services pilot with 11 other high quality programs in our county. High quality early learning opportunities are essential for a community to thrive with long lasting impact. High quality early childhood education helps to ensure that children have a successful school beginning with the reduced need for special education, less of an achievement gap, and increased graduation rates. High quality early learning opportunities, children live healthier lives, giving them the ability to avoid teenage pregnancy, obesity, smoking, and depression. And high quality early learning builds skills that children need to be workforce ready and workplace successful. Nobel laureate and economics professor James Heckman states that every dollar invested in quality early childhood education produces a 7 to 10% per annum return in better education, health, social, and economic outcomes. So no doubt, I think we all agree it's an important part of our community, and we need more high quality programs like Becky Wheeler in our community working on behalf of our community's youngest. So Monroe County is home to 7,699 children under the age of 6, and 66% of our young kids need care because all of their parents are working. Yet only 45% of our programs in our county have earned a high quality rating, and Becky's program is one of those high quality ratings. The pandemic has only exacerbated an already fragile system, and it's further exposed the fragility among early childhood programs, especially in terms of accessibility. So the programs that we have that are high quality, we need them to remain open and serving families so families can work. Our county must support Becky and our other 114 early childhood programs that legally operate within our community. Families need dependable care to work, and children need high quality care to thrive. So we welcome collaborating with you in the near future for solutions that support high quality early childhood programs with children and families that we serve. We thank you in advance for your support of Becky, her staff, and children and families that call My Little Blessings their second home.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Would anybody else like to speak on behalf of the petition?
I would if I could.
Okay, state your name.
My name is Katie Knoll.
And do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you.
And I promise to keep this very short.
Okay.
I am a parent that utilized Becky services for over 7 years with 2 of my children. And I just wanted to stay on this meeting tonight and show parental support, who has utilized her services. I don't anticipate you need my support to approve this based on the report that's been given, but we just wanted to share our support of her, the service that she provides the county. She is one of the most affordable ones in the county that continues to increase every year. And Becky makes it to where everyone in the county has a chance to utilize her services. And I fully support her being able to remain at this location.
All right, thank you. And once again, I'd like to state that I am so jealous that we do not have the quality care when my kid were younger that they do now. Is there anybody else here that would like to speak on this behalf of this petition? Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Nope. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'd like to move that we approve the conditional use request for a daycare center based on the findings of fact and subject to the Monroe County Highway and Engineer and MS4 coordinator reports, and subject to the following condition: that the applicant receive an updated real estate inspection of the septic system. And this pertains to case number CDU-21-2. And I just want to tell you how heartwarming it was to hear of all of your accomplishments and the services you provide. And so thank you.
Okay.
Nice second.
All right. You want to call the roll, Larry?
I sure will. The vote is on CDU-21-2, my blessings conditional use. Under Chapter 833 for a daycare center, we located at 583 South Cave Road. The vote favors the vote to approve the conditional use, subject to the condition of getting a septic tank, on-site sewage disposal, and some real estate inspection from the Monroe County Health Department. Again, a vote in favor is vote to approve the conditional use. Mary Beth Smarchek?
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen?
Yes.
Barbara Clemens?
Yes.
Skip Daly? Have we lost Skip? Okay, the motion carries anyway, 3-0.
Okay. All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all. Okay, next up we have case number CDU 21-3. Ann?
Thank you. So let's see. So my internet has been a little funky, so hopefully it will not cut out. So this is the Bedford Recycling Conditional Use to Chapter 813 for the use of central garbage or rubbish removal. To note, I'm going to refer to it as an address of 405 East Dillon Road. There's a little bit of a question as to whether or not that's east or possibly west. So you'll probably see east throughout this presentation, but we're going to debate that with the addressing coordinator. It could be 405 west. We're not sure yet.
Can we have a hearing if we don't have the address?
Yes, I think we can.
We have a parcel number. So
okay.
We've had hearings on unaddressed houses before.
Okay.
We got to be determined earlier this evening. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so this property is in Perry Township, Section 32. So right now we're looking at the conditional use of
central garbage or rubbish definition. I've included on the screen. So it is located off of what we would know as to be West Dillman Road. Let's see. Perry Township, section 32. So it's currently zoned as mineral extraction. So 2 photos of pictometry to see what that site is currently looking like. So this site recently underwent a minor subdivision it was 100+ acres. So it recently subdivided into 2 lots, one of which was 30-some acres, one of which was a lot more than that. We can see a lot of floodplain here. They did go underneath the Indiana DNR floodplain, the FARA analysis, which was the floodplain analysis and regulatory assessment. So they do have an address off of West Dillman Road. So they did meet those elevations. So this site is proposing a facility of 25,000 square feet of a middle building, 1,500 square feet of office building, 1,500 square feet of maintenance building, and then a parking area of approximately 100,000, like outdoor storage yard. The entire site will be screened with a 8-foot length chain link, but privacy fencing. So this would be all conditional, well, not conditional, but if approved, it will undergo a general commercial site plan, which will make sure all outdoor storage is screened. Let's see, so there are 2 options to this site, one of which the left photo as shown is their ideal site plan. So currently there is a dumping easement on this property, and they are hoping that this easement will be vacated. So their hope is that of the 30 acres, this property will be located a little bit farther north towards Dillman Road. If that does not happen, on the right is an alternative idea where the facility will be located further south. The petitioners do understand that if it is located farther north and that the dumping easement is vacated, that they do need to do a final plat amendment towards that minor subdivision that they did just plat recently. So for essential garbage and rubbish use, there is a condition 33. So for condition 33, I've outlined the requirements for that. They do meet all of them. Most of them are conditions that will be met at a commercial site plan stage. What is unique is that conditions F and G are not necessarily applicable. So they are, so these are 2 conditions that would apply to the solid waste district and the Monroe County Health District, but they do not necessarily apply to our definition of this use. So in this scenario, both these organizations have supplied letters that say they do not think that these conditions necessarily apply to them and that they do not have to fulfill them. This is not just a So as different departments, we have different definitions. So by their definitions, they would not meet this criteria. And it only kind of meets our criteria. So it's not a full recycling facility. It's, well, I guess it's only kind of partial. So for both the F and G, for the Solid Waste District and the Monroe County Health Department, they're saying that's not quite meeting those two requirements, Ordinance 207-18, or being required Chapter 360. It doesn't quite meet them. So they've supplied letters that they don't have to meet those. Everything other, they're doing great. So these are 2 letters that were included in your packet. So staff is recommending an approval of the conditional use for the central garbage or rubbish collection facility based on the findings of fact and subject to the Monroe County Highway and Drainage Engineer reports. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Skip was somehow bounced from the meeting and said he was not permitted to re-enter. I don't know who would be in charge of permitting him to not re-enter, but.
You know, actually I got bounced from the meeting earlier and it took a while. So.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll come back.
Anyway. Are there any questions for staff? Brian. Seeing none, is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
Hi, this is Andy Knust from Bledsoe Riggert Cooper James. I'm the civil engineer on the project, consultant for the owner, and speaking here on behalf of the owner. Mr. Larry Parsons of Bedford Recycling is listening to the meeting right now and he's available to respond if needed. I would just like to clarify the— Do
you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify about the 2 letters that we received from the health department and from the solid waste district. There were some conditions for the approval. You know, the conditional use approval is for a central garbage and rubbish handling facility, which that particular description and definition is meant to apply to a facility that handles solid waste, which the facility we're proposing here doesn't handle solid waste. What it does is handle ferrous and non-ferrous metals for recycling. It's essentially a scrap yard. You know, they'll accept metal, both ferrous and non-ferrous, from the general public and process it, sort it at the facility, and you know, send it on for further processing at other facilities. But so the only materials that'll be handled there are metals. They won't be accepting like general household waste or, you know, hazardous materials or anything that meets the definitions of solid waste. So that's what these letters we got from the health department essentially say, you know, since they're not handling solid waste, you know, our approval is not applicable in this case. So that's what the 2 letters are about. And otherwise, we've designed, you know, the site plan for this facility to meet all the conditions of the conditional use approval for this use in mineral extraction zone, and that dumping easement that Ann referenced has been vacated. As to the best of my knowledge, Mr. Parsons has been coordinating that with the adjoining property owner who owned that that dumping easement, but last I heard from Larry, that dumping easement has been vacated. So we will be pursuing the more northern site plan that basically covers the existing, tailings pile from you can see in the aerial photo there. There's a lot of spalls and whatnot from surrounding quarries where they've dumped limestone spalls in that area. And so that's where the majority of the site is going to be located, on that pile. They're going to flatten out that pile, grade it out, and use that part of the site as the majority of the facility. So, are there
anybody have any questions? Does the board have any questions? Thank you, Andy. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Does a member of the board have a motion ready?
I'd like to recommend that we approve case number CDU-21-3. And this is the Bedford Recycling, care of Andy Knudst. And I'd like to recommend approval for the conditional use for it's not really garbage or rubbish, but the scrapyard facility at I'm having actually trouble seeing this, at the site on Dillman Road. So that's my motion.
405 East or West Dillman Road.
Okay, and it's subject to the Monroe County Highway and Drainage Engineer reports. East or West Dillman Road.
I think Vicki just seconded that, correct?
Did.
Okay, you want to call the roll, Larry? I believe that Skip is back with us.
Okay, great. Motion to approve CDU conditional use request 21-3, Bedford Recycling. A vote in favor is vote to approve the conditional use for a century garbage and rubbish collection facility. I will note that our definition of that includes recycling facility. And I hope we change the title of that facility in the new ordinance so it doesn't have such a negative intonation. Connotation. But again, a recycling facility, whether or not it's required to get a solid waste permit from the state and from the local Board of Health, is a conditional use under this provision. Again, a vote in favor is a vote to approve the conditional use based upon the findings and subject to the Monroe County Highway and Drainage Engineer report. Skip Daly.
I will sadly need to abstain. I was readmitted after the presentation, so. Okay.
Mary Beth Kismarczyk?
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen?
Yes.
Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Conditional use is approved by 3 votes in favor, 1 abstention.
And Skip, the daycare was approved, so there was no problem with that. And I did not see you trying to get back in. I did not notice that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry too.
That myself and several other people have abilities to let people in. And I just actually found I had that ability tonight. So there's that. Okay. Next up, the final case for the evening is case VAR-21-55.
And Mary Beth, I will have to abstain from this and checking with the Board of Zoning for a conflict of interest.
Okay, you can do that. We'll let you do that. And Okay, who's our planner on this case?
It's me, Drew.
Oh, hi, Drew. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I took the wrong sheet, maybe. I don't know. But...
All right. Can you see my screen okay?
Yep, sure can.
All right, great. Sorry, 1 second. All right, this is VAR-21-55. It's the Zuricki use variance for general contractor in Chapter 802. It's located at 1246 West Old Capitol Pike, and it's in Perry Township, Section 29. All right, the petitioner is requesting one use variance request to add general contractor to the vacant property zoned pre-existing business. The purpose is to construct a warehouse and office for a solar electrical contractor business called Whole Sun Designs Incorporated. The vacant property is zoned pre-existing business, and as such, it has unallowable uses for low intensity classification that are available under general business and the limited business zone. General contractor is designed as designated, I should say, as a medium to intensity use, and it's defined as an individual who contracts to perform work or to provide supplies on a large scale, or an individual who contracts to erect buildings. The property to be owned is to be owned by Whole Sun Developments, LLC, and leased to Whole Sun Designs Incorporated, which would essentially make it a owner-occupied property. The petitioners also stated that they expect to have some traffic coming to and from the petition site in the form of an average of 1 semi-truck and 3 UPS or similar delivery trucks per week, along with some of their business trucks and utility vehicles that are explained in more detail in the petitioner's letter. Okay, so this is a very unique property. It's zoned pre-existing business, and it is out on West Old Capitol Pike. Here on the zoning map, you'll see all these properties in this area are zoned pre-existing business that come off of West Old Capitol Pike. And then this one property up here that has the hatch marks on it is designated historic preservation. So there is an easement that comes through this property that services all the other lots here, as well as this lot. Here we have the slope map for the property. There are a few minor areas where slopes could be of potential concern, but for the most part, the entire property is relatively flat, as you'll see in some of the petition photographs. Okay, so here's the entrance off of West Victor Pike onto West Old Capitol Pike. It's a quite bit of a turn down here. So you come down this road and it turns quickly to the right. And if you keep going straight, you go into that historic preservation property. The bottom right photograph kind of gives you that idea. This stone wall here is the driveway to the historic preservation property. And then this is the easement that continues on through, which is known as West Old Capitol Pike. More photographs here. There are some details regarding this low stone wall within the recorded easement for this roadway. It does have some historical protections on it, I will say. Here in this photograph to the right, we keep following down this West Old Capitol Pike, coming around the corner here and coming on down toward closer to the petition site. More photographs here, petition site here in the background, and then turning around to see where we came from along West Old Capitol Pike here, and then this easement road. The historic preservation property is over here, farther to the right of the photograph, behind the trees. All right, some more photographs of the actual petition site itself. The entrance here, and then turning around to look where we came from. Again, more photographs. As you can see, it's relatively flat. All right, and here we have the petitioner's letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals stating their intention and their business activity that they are proposing for this property. Again, it's a solar electrical contractor. They speak about how many employees they expect to have, as well as traffic in the form of their trucks for pack in and pack out, as well as equipment deliveries that I spoke about earlier. Their main focus is on sustainability. You can read more about that kind of stuff that the petitioner is planning to do on the site here in the remainder of the letter. It's also in your packet. Here we have the petitioner's site plan, preliminary site plan. So if this petition were to be approved for the use variance, they would have to continue on with a commercial site plan and have that approved by planning staff. It would be reviewed by all the departments for all the necessary requirements for the site plan, commercial site plan. So we have the property outline delineated here, setbacks, as well as the proposed locations for some structures, an office and 2 warehouses, as well as a potential septic location. The driveway would come off of here, off of this easement and West Old Capitol Pike. All right, so here we have some more materials for view. So this was a survey location report that was dug up in a previous petition that involved these properties in this area, and I found that it was very useful for reference purposes. So it's kind of hard to see here, but this is West Old Capitol Pike, and then this roadway here that we came down to get to the petition site is a 50-foot recorded easement. So there is some materials there that reference that. We can come back to any of these exhibits if we'd like to talk about them more. This is the Marshall Place subdivision plat. You'll note that the petition site would be right here, and it is not included in the subdivision, but the adjacent properties are. Again, here is West Old Capitol Pike, and it has an easement attached to it to provide access to these properties. All right, so this is a use variance petition, so it's a little bit different. I included the standards of a variance approval here. So there are all 5 criteria must be met in order to be approved. And use variances in their nature are rather difficult for staff to approve based on the high level that they have to overcome in order to receive a recommendation of approval in terms of the ordinance and how it's drafted. So in this situation, staff recommends denial of the use variance for a general contractor to Chapter 802 based on the findings of fact that there is no substantial evidence that the property cannot be utilized under one of the permitted low intensity uses listed in the general business or limited business zoning district, and therefore does not meet criteria 812-5D, which is specifically the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. I will now take any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Drew?
I have a quick question.
Okay.
Is this, I'm trying to follow the maps. Is this property on the east side of 37 across from the gas station that's known as the truck stop?
Yes, so the truck stop is this parcel here.
All right, and then so there's like Bloomington Cleaners is one of those parcels down there?
Yes, so
okay.
Yep. This property here, and this property here are all commercial businesses. Bloomington Cleaners, Carpet Cleaners, I think.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the other 2 uses off the top of my head, but there are existing businesses.
I'm just trying to make sure I'm seeing the same property that.
Sure.
All right, thanks.
Any further questions for Drew? Is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
Yes, hello, my name is Ryan Zaricki.
Mr. Zaricki, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, so hello, my name is Ryan Zaricki. I'm the founder and president of Whole Sun Designs. We're a local solar contractor. We were originally based in Evansville, Indiana, and moved up to Bloomington in 2017. I've been in business for 10 years now, and am proud to call Bloomington home these days. Thank you all for your perseverance. This stuff is actually really interesting to me, but I'm glad I don't have to do this every month. So thank you all for sticking it out. I do want to say that denial was expected. At least the recommendation for denial from the planning department was expected. But for me, this seemed like the easiest path to achieve what I'm trying to do. I currently have this property under a purchase agreement. So I don't technically own the property right now, but that purchase agreement is contingent on getting the zoning in a way that I can do essentially build a shop and office for the business. And while I recognize that there are other options, this seemed to be the easiest. And I believe that there will be a neighbor that will speak to the fact that they really appreciate that this isn't a full rezone that opens up this property to a bunch of different possible developments, but it's just very narrowly defined for this one specific use. If you read through my letter, like Drew said, I plan on doing owner-occupied. Being a solar company, sustainability will be at the top of our mind whenever we're developing this. I plan to make it a net zero energy building, all electric, solar powered, electric car charging. I actually live right up the trail. I recently built a net zero energy home just north of Gordon's Pike on the rail trail. And literally my backyard is the rail trail. So I can get on my bike and ride my bike down to this property, which is really exciting and really appealing in that I can sort of nurture this property, its pedestrian access through the limestone greenway, which is really exciting. I do plan to do kind of a barn aesthetic with natural wood siding and a metal roof. I don't plan on just building a metal box. I do want it to be beautiful. The majority of this property is trees, and I plan to keep it that way. About approximately 3 of the 5 acres is wooded, the strip of land along the trail, which I think is just really beautiful, and plan to sort of develop pathways through that, but leaving as many trees as possible. And I'm just really excited. I thought this, like whenever I saw this up for sale, I just got really excited about the opportunity of building something new so that I can build it the way that I want it, super efficient, solar powered, and just all those little different sort of positive notes of this property, I feel like really makes it a gem. One of my favorite things in life is driving down roads where the trees touch over the top of the road, and that easement through the historical property is that. It's just this beautiful sort of country lane. And I've spoken with many of the neighbors and tried to get their buy-in, kind of told them what I'm looking to do, and have received really positive feedback, and just really look forward to the possibility of making this dream happen. One other thing, just as a note, I'm currently renting a warehouse space, and our landlord asked us to leave, so that we were sort of in a gentleman's agreement, and I've been there for a few years, and it was understanding that it was somewhat month to month, basically 6 months. Every 6 months we discussed it. And recently it came up and he asked us to move. So I started looking for shop property and realized that there are really limited options on sort of warehouse space in Bloomington. So I actually just recently renewed a lease for a year, but our rent doubled. So we're really looking forward to the idea of owning our own space that we can develop the way we want it and work out of it. And I would ask that you accept this variance and open to any questions you might have.
Does the board have any questions for the petitioner?
I have one. Mr. Zaricki, welcome to Bloomington, and thank you for making us your home, and also the subject of some of your services. But I'm curious, could you tell us about the intensity of your business? Like how many trucks, what kind of deliveries, et cetera, you will encounter?
Yeah, so initially I kind of had a little bit of pushback against the general contractor. I do have a residential contractor's license. I also hold a master electrician's license. We aren't so much a general contractor as we are a subcontractor. Essentially, we have teams of installers that go out to mostly existing homes installing solar panels. So our fleet includes standard full-size pickups, standard full-size vans, and standard full-size box trucks, just depending on whether it's electricians, project managers, or our roofing crews. We have to take pallets of solar panels to jobs. So our biggest vehicle that we have in our fleet is an E350 box truck. So we also have electric cars. You might see us running around town in a Nissan Leaf. Our trucks are the big blue trucks with the big yellow suns on them. You know, we're not generally hauling equipment in and out of there. You know, we don't own any skid steers or excavators. Our crews actually asked me to buy them, but we use them so rarely that we end up just renting them. As far as our team goes, I speak to it in the letter. We're currently in a bit of a growth cycle. We're trying to get to between about 12 employees, 4 of them being administrative, 4 or 5 being them administrative, and 6 to 8 being installers. So our installers come in the morning, load up, and then load out, and are generally out in the field most of the day. Before the pandemic, our staff, our admin staff, was in the office, whether it be sales, project management, business managers, those sorts of roles. But these days, since the pandemic has sort of pushed us remote, we split that time. Our admin team is maybe 50-50 in the office and working from home. As far as deliveries go, we do get some semi-trucks of solar panels, rails, and then as far as electrical supply houses, we'll send trucks of, you know, wire spools and conduit, those sorts of deliveries. So on average, we get about 1 semi-truckload a week and a few sort of UPS or electrical distribution house trucks that they bring us supplies or inverters, small boxes, those sorts of deliveries. Okay, does that answer your question?
That gives me an idea. So basically, you've got about 6 to 10 trucks of your own going in and out. You know, they basically load up in the morning and could be gone all day, but they may have to come back. Or and then you get deliveries throughout the week, but during normal business hours, and you know, probably about the same number, you know, of deliveries a week, about 6 to 10 or something like that.
Yeah, and generally our install teams are paired up. So if we have 6 installers, that they're generally in 3 vehicles.
So 3 to 5, or because you're going to grow. So, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that gives me an idea. Thank you.
Sure.
Any further questions for the petitioner? Is there anyone here anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition?
I would, please.
Okay, state your name, please.
My name is Jeff Morris.
And do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I live on the Stittbender farm, which Drew mentioned a minute ago, which is the historic property. Our property has the easement running through it, through the front of it for Old Capitol Pike. My wife and I spoke with Ryan a few weeks back, and it sounds like what he's proposing for the vacant land would fit well with the businesses that are already back there. I know Bloomington Carpet Cleaning was mentioned a minute ago. The other two are Bloomington Seal Coat and Quality Tool. My understanding is there'd be minimal customer traffic, and I think that question was just answered a minute ago. So it doesn't seem like there would be much additional traffic coming down Old Capitol Pike on a daily basis. There are already semis making deliveries to the existing businesses back there on Old Capitol Pike on pretty much a near daily basis. In addition, it doesn't sound like the warehouse and office buildings proposed would really even be visible from our property. So we appreciate the care that Ryan has taken in his design of the property to minimize anything that'd be visible from outside the property. The other thing I wanted to mention is this property has changed ownership several times in the 4 years we've lived in our house. So we feel like Ryan's plan would bring some stability to the neighborhood. As most of you know, our neighborhood has been brought up in several plan commission meetings over the past few years for various zoning requests around us. So we appreciate Ryan's interest in respecting the neighboring properties. Ryan mentioned the trees out in front of our house along Old Capitol Pike, so I do want to bring that up briefly. I want to say that we are very protective of those trees on our property that line Old Capitol Pike because they do provide quite a bit of coverage of our property and limit our view of Highway 37 and also the gas station across the street from us. I also want to mention that those trees are protected by our historic overlay of our property. So if any part of this request would require that any of our trees would be removed or altered in order to accommodate any changes to Old Capitol Pike, that would change our mind on supporting the proposal. But it sounds like nothing that Ryan's wanting to do would impact those trees, since he mentioned that he does like the coverage of that they provide. So as the proposal stands right now, we support Ryan's plans for the property. So I just wanted to thank all of you for considering this, and also thank Ryan for this and considering the neighborhood as he put his plan together. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone that would like to speak against this petition? Seeing none, is one of my board members ready with a motion for us?
Skip, your hand is raised.
I did have a quick question for Drew. Could you put that slide back up where you mentioned the role of the BZA in this specific instance? Do you know which one I'm referencing?
This one here.
Right, the standards, right. You brought this up specifically, and I'm trying to understand how this 812-5 is not brought up on a regular basis, and I wanted to know its relevance here.
Sure. So this is a special case, and normally we deal with what are called design standard variances. And those are a pathway to vary from standards that are set forth in either Chapter 804 or 833, specific to like setbacks, buildable area, those kinds of things. This is a use variance, meaning that the particular use that they want to have on this property is not permitted in their current zoning district. The alternative path to allowing a use on a property is to rezone it. This property has tried to be rezoned a couple times in the past. Those petitions go to the Plan Commission and then the Board of Zoning Appeals. And a lot of the conversation with those is it opens up a lot of different options. So once you rezone to something like general business, you get all of those uses available on the property unless otherwise restricted. But the use variance is more specific to a particular property. And it's suggesting that we only want to add this one particular use onto this property for the reasons that are brought forth by the petitioner. Now, in order to for staff to recommend approval, it has to meet these conditions here before you in the ordinance. And since it's allowing a new use that normally wouldn't be in the zoning ordinance, it has to overcome a high bar of scrutiny, if you will. And that one that doesn't match quite with planning staff is this one that it will cause an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought, meaning that use variances, if they ever get a recommendation of approval from planning staff, it's pretty much like the property can't be used at all unless we add this particular use onto it. In this case, this property could be used. It's not seen any success in being used as a low intensity use that's available in general business or limited business. So that's why we're here tonight for this particular request.
And the hardship is not on the petitioner specifically, because they mentioned in their presentation that they have not signed, they've not closed on this property. They're not the owner of this, right?
Right. And also, a lot of times when a use variance comes through, a rationale for planning staff's denial as well, it comes to, well, they could just petition for a rezone. And this petitioner could do that. But again, there have been moments in the past where various obvious reasons, those kinds of rezone petitions get a lot of pushback from neighbors as well as planning commission members and other things. So it makes sense why this petitioner is going for the use variance, but it has to meet these standards of the ordinance.
Thank you, Drew.
May I add to that?
Yes, Ryan, go ahead.
So as I mentioned earlier, Drew did mention that he essentially, because of this, would have to deny the request. And I just want to highlight that this is the framework for staff recommendation. Drew was very upfront about letting me know that you, as the Board of Zoning Appeals, do have the discretion to approve this, but just from the staff recommendation, because potentially I could buy this and build a hair salon, that he would have to deny it, because there are use cases that I could do, but that doesn't serve me and my business. And that's why I'm asking for the variance, the use variance. So, and I would just like to say I'm really grateful to work with Drew. He's been great to work with as far as answering all my questions. I really enjoy this stuff, but yeah, I just want to highlight that you do have the discretion to approve this. So I hope you do. We do.
I'd like to ask a question, since we're talking about it, and Drew, Mr. Zaricki had mentioned that, he has a hardship because he's the use that he currently enjoys for the conduct of his business is being relinquished from him. And so does that count as an unnecessary hardship, or is that just for the property? What's your muting?
It's
there we go.
There's something to character. The idea is there's something to character of the property that creates a hardship in its utilization.
I see.
The classic case is say a residential lot that's surrounded by commercial buildings. So it's difficult to put it to a residential use. In this case, if you were looking to approve, I think you would look at the difficulty in access for most of the businesses that would be permitted, because it has to go through an easement that's limited, cannot be expanded due to the historic preservation. So that's the difficulty with the site. It's adjacent to an interstate, but there's no easy access off the interstate to reach this. So it's limited in that regard. So we always will recommend denial to a use variance just because there are uses you can put this property to. It could be an office, but again, it's hard to get people in and out. So that's why we make a negative recommendation in these cases.
I have one more quick, I don't know if it's a question or if it's a comment, but I'm curious as to why Mr. Zaricki is making this petition as opposed to the current property owner sitting here asking us in order to sell the property or in order to have this property developed, why the petitioner is the gentleman that doesn't own it yet.
Sure. So that is sometimes common with petitions. We'll see someone come forth with a purchase agreement for a property and maybe they want to build a home on it and they don't know if they can yet. So they know that variances are required. So they enter into an agreement with the property owner before they invest too much money or time into something. If it just gets denied, they won't be able to do it. This property has, as I answer your question, Skip.
Well, I think if the matter is the hardship, I think hearing from the property owner, him or herself would have maybe helped address that if there is a hardship.
Mr. Morris, you have your hand up.
Yeah, if I could speak again, I wanted to bring up something that was mentioned a minute ago. So to be open, we were one of the people that spoke out against a rezone of this property a few years ago. And the primary reason we spoke out against it is what Larry mentioned a minute ago, just the access to the property that Ryan's trying to buy that runs through our property. By rezoning it, that was going to open up so many different uses that could go back there. And we didn't know what those uses would be. So we felt like we were really opening ourselves up to having who knows what kind of business back there. So to us, this feels like, a more concrete business that would go back there. We know what we're going to have as neighbors. Ryan was kind enough to reach out to us before he brought this forward. So we had an idea of what was going to be back there. So that was what led me to say in my speech a minute ago that, we feel like this will bring stability to the neighborhood with Ryan moving his business back there.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Do any of my board members have a motion for me?
I would like to make a motion. I think that it's wonderful that we have someone in this industry who wants to move to the area and to participate in the next generation of energy production that is ecologically and environmentally sensitive. And given the fact that I feel that, no offense, Jeff, but having a historical property right next door is kind of a difficulty or an unnecessary hardship on an aspiring business, because of course you're trying to protect that historical character that you fought so hard to secure. And so I think that I'd like to recommend that in the matter of VAR-21-55 at 1246 and 1295 West Old Capitol Pike, that we approve the used variance, because there's been, I don't see that there would be injury to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community, that the use and value of the areas adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be adversely affected, and the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved. And I think that that has to do with the surrounding historical property and environment, and also the difficulty in accessing it. and that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance would constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property, and that the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan. I just don't see that its use is that substantially different from what is permitted. And so I would like to recommend that we approve this.
I'll second the motion. Larry?
Yeah, I'll call the roll. The roll is on use variance 21-55, the Zareki use variance for general contractor use on the parcel located at 1246 West Old Capitol Pike. Motion is based upon approval of a finding that the variance meets all the requirements for granting of a use variance, including the need arises from the condition peculiar to the property, and that strict application of the zoning ordinance would constitute an unnecessary hardship when applied to this property for which the variance is sought. Again, a motion, yes motion, and motion approved. The yes. Skip Daly.
I want to do the right thing here. I think I'm on the fence, but I think a case can be made, and I'm going to vote yes.
Meredith Barczyk?
Yes.
Mark Clements?
Yes.
The variance is approved by a 3 vote in favor and 1 abstention, that being Vicki Sorensen, who has recused herself from this particular matter.
Good luck to you.
Thank you all so very much. I very much appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Have a great evening.
Okay, I think that brings us to the close of this meeting. What, 3.5 hours? Or 3 hours or 4 hours? I don't know.
Wait a minute, isn't there another page to the agenda?
Is there another page to the agenda?
It was continued, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm just kidding you, yes.
Oh, real funny.
Oh, and I wanted to make an announcement. I'll be here during the meeting first. But anyway, you guys need to check out the new Charlie Bird book that is out, supporting Charlie the Bird. The Captain Janeway statue is very proud to be in that book and mentioned in Charlie Bird's travels. So do check out Charlie Bird's book and help support Charlie Bird. Okay. I assume most of you know who Charlie Bird is.
Bird is the word, right?
That bird is amazing. He's an amazing bird.
Thanks everybody for your perseverance in working through this. It's a long night and we got through a lot of items.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you and have a good evening.
I did.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.